Hi. I'm Arthur. And you are all in for a treat today, I will say. In the 40k universe, there are a lot of characters. Like, a lot. So many that one of the hardest things to do is to parse what is important, what isn't. Some characters are obvious, like Remembrancer Gilliman in the modern setting is pretty important. Same goes for Abaddon the Dick Soiler. But there are so many characters that deserve a spotlight that they likely will never get. It's important to mix and match the lore you consume so you can bring up characters that are important in ways that you wouldn't get just from those mainstay poster boys. Like, good example, Abaddon is cool and all, but Huron Blackheart is significantly cooler. He leads the Red Corsairs, which are evil chaos pirates that control a small Terran reality like the Eye of Terror called the Maelstrom. So, I decided to round up two other folks I think are A1 lore scholars and get them to discuss characters that they think are cool. If you can't do the math, that means 3 characters total. The only criteria for this list is a character that you should know about, be them significant or just fun to know about. There isn't really any restriction. So without further ado, we shall get into the list of 3 individuals that you should probably know about.
Greetings everyone, my name is the Remembrancer, and today I'm here on Mr. Bones' channel to discuss cool characters in 40k that you might not have heard of. So today I've chosen a renegade legionary during the Horus Heresy, whose actions would change the fate of every living soul of the galaxy, from the humblest of serfs to the most venerated of primarchs. Barabbas D'Antioch. Barabbas D'Antioch was an Iron Warrior captain which the Legion calls Warsmiths. He led the 51st Expeditionary Fleet during the Great Crusade and attempted to bring the Gugan system into compliance. That's Gugan, not Gungan. Fighting the Harud species, the Xenos would manipulate the flow of time to drastically age the Iron Warriors during the campaign, leading to D'Antioch and many of his men aging approximately 300 years and decimating its now wearied ranks. Objecting to his Primarch Perturabo's actions in sending his men underprepared for their doomed campaign, D'Antioch would be stripped of his Terminator armour and banished to the world of Lesser Damantine. Garrisoning the fortification known as the Schadenhold, D'Antioch and his men would seemingly be fated to wait out the remainder of the Great Crusade until the arrival of Warsmith Idris Krendel. The Iron Warriors Legion had turned on the Imperium during his exile, with Krendel demanding D'Antioch to resupply his own war-scarred forces. Refusing to betray the Imperium, D'Antioch would reject Krendel's orders and command the 366-day-long defence of the Schadenhold. The so-called Sons of D'Antioch would push back the 14th Grand Company until the arrival of a Nurgle-corrupted Emperor-class Titan, which would be deployed to finally end the siege. Ordering his men to abandon the fortress, D'Antioch would transport his men onto a Sons of Horus Legion vessel and detonate the Schadenhold as the traitors entered its walls, crushing them beneath all the debris and blown up bits of walls and explosions. It's pretty cool. Krendel would be wounded, the Titan would be destroyed, and D'Antioch would escape to Holy Terror. Now, meeting with the Loyalists, the renegade Warsmith would be tasked with fortifying the Imperial Palace. As an Iron Warrior, his insight would be invaluable about what the traitors might do to try and breach the gates and the walls. But with that done, he would then be tasked to venture to the world of Sofa to study a device known as the Sofa Device. Alongside the Imperial Fist, Alexis Pollux, D'Antioch would work diligently to understand the ancient artifact and its teleportation mechanisms. Saving the lives of both Remembrancer Gilliman and the Lion during their battle with Conrad Kurz on the world of Macragge, D'Antioch would also teleport Alexis Pollux to the planet of Sofa during the battle, and alongside his unlikely brother once more face the wrath of the Night Lords during the Battle of Sofa. Besieged by Krukesh of the 8th Legion, D'Antioch would prevent the Sofa device from falling into enemy hands by overloading it and succeed at the cost of his life. Dying in the arms of Alexis, D'Antioch would earn the title of Hero of the Imperium and leave a legacy to be inherited into the successor chapters of the Ultramarines, the Scythes of the Emperor. And for that matter, possibly also the Silver Skulls, though that's not confirmed. The mask of the Warden of the Pharos would become a badge of office for the Chapter Master of the Scythes until Sofa's near destruction by a Tyranid invasion. Known as the Traitor Redeemed, D'Antioch is by far one of the coolest characters in 40k, despite that he unknowingly would doom the galaxy to never-ending invasions of the Tyranids due to the detonation of the Sofa device. I did a full-length video on him a while back if you're interested, but you might want a box of tissues handy for when he dies in the narration. But otherwise, I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Bones for letting me do a little piece on his channel, and I look forward to the video and seeing what else Mr. Bones makes in the future. Until then, this has been a tale from the Remembrancer, and I'll see you guys another time.
Haha, that's a great character, whoever it is Arthur put ahead of me in the video, unless of course I'm first, in which case, Arthur, you're a bastard. Anyway, when talking about the characters everyone ought to know in 40k, what if a character is not a character, but is in fact an inanimate object?
Come get some!
Yep, that's right, I'm gonna be talking about the Land Raider known as Rin's Might. You see, when the homeworld of the Crimson Fist chapter of Space Marines was besieged by orcs, there was a bit of a problem when one of their defense missiles, a plasma missile mind you, malfunctioned and flew back and hit the monastery, killing many of the surviving Marines, which were already in a bad way after some pretty grueling crusading beforehand. Now, the Crimson Fists were able to hold on thanks to the efforts of Chapter Master Pedro Cantor, but they wouldn't do it alone, because after the blast, one of the surviving Land Raiders, which had been blown away by the explosion, had its machine spirit awaken, and would proceed to go on a one-raider rampage through the orc forces, unloading its munitions, hunting groups of orcs that were massing up, and generally being a massive nuisance. This would all come to a head when the Land Raider, completely out of ammunition, would notice the orc war boss and some of his best massing up for a final push on the surviving Crimson Fists. So, again, out of ammunition, it ran straight into the orc lines, crushing anything it could and ramming into any orc trucks it could find, blaring hymns to the Emperor and presumably Charge of the Light Brigade. But it was not to last, because the orc war boss would get off a solid shot on the Land Raider's tracks, sending it spiraling out and disabling it. But the little raider that could had one trick up its sleeve, because it was so determined to kill these orcs that, when the boss and his boys went in to loot, it closed the hatches and overloaded its reactor in order to fill the chamber with radiation and poison runoff gas. Now don't start crying, because the chapter master would find the machine and, upon interrogating its machine spirit, learn of what it did and give it a whole new chassis so it continued to serve the chapter thereafter. But it's not just a cool story that you'll see pop up in a video here and there or in a YouTube short. I think there's something bigger here, because I believe Rin's Might is a prime example of why machine spirits qualify as Imperial demons. Now, the concept of demons of the Imperium is not a particularly new one. Look at the Legion of the Damned or living saints like Celestine. But it's often been wondered where machine spirits fit in, and I do think they really fit the bill. Rin's Might is a good example because it's capable of things that are not just following orders, but also emotions such as vindictiveness and a sense of duty. Furthermore, many people write it off as saying, oh, Rin's Might was just following the last directive it knew. Well, the last directive it knew would be to defend fortress, probably link up with troops, shoot weapons. It wouldn't be ram into the enemy leader, blaring hymns, and then overload your reactor to flood yourself with gas in a kamikaze maneuver. That shows a level of creativity and cognition as well as emotional intention, because it doesn't need to blare prayers, but anyone on a suicidal last charge absolutely would do that. The machine spirits of smaller technologies may have just a bit of a living vibe to them, I guess, that needs to be appeased a little bit, in the same way the most minor demons of chaos are just like wisps of psychic energy or an emotion given form in the warp. But larger ones are capable of these kinds of actions and independent thoughts while being loyal to a core cause or identity. Bloodthirsters will have maybe a certain way they like to go about killing, but their main directive is spill blood. Demons of Slaanesh may have a specific sensation or method of achieving sensations that they favor, but the main theme remains the same. And with Rin's Might and other machine spirit demons, it is be loyal to the Imperium, but they go about it in different ways. Some are particularly angry, some are particularly loyal to the very last. And I think Rin's Might is a perfect example of, effectively, a demon engine of the Emperor. And it makes sense considering how long people have been worshipping machines in the Imperium. So next time anyone asks what your favorite demon is in 40k, you might have a more interesting answer than everyone else in the room. And I think that's what really matters.
Hi, I'm here to end off the list, and who would have thunk it? Arthur Bonesman is covering Night Lords. So who's it gonna be? Ooh, fancy, right? Probably someone from First Claw of 10th Company. Nah. Well, sort of. In the Night Lords trilogy, there is many different important characters. You have Uzas, Talos, Syrian, Zarl, Mercutian, and Variel, each one having distinctive talents and abilities that make them useful. But at the end of the last book in the series, every last one of them aside from Variel ends up... spoiler alert. Sorry if you didn't read the last book. Dying. But from their ashes, a new warrior is born. Likely created from the offspring of Talos' last slaves, Octavia and Septimus, came a perfect thunderstorm to make the scariest motherfucker in history. Wearing the ritualistic helm of Zarl, having the flayed skin and skulls of Uzas, the lightning bolt markings of Syrian, the bolt gun of the war sage Malkarian, the ancient sword of a fallen blood angel, and I guess Mercutian got fucked in the equation because they forgot about him. But the important part is he has the personality and ability of Talos Valkyron. Talos was a rare specimen, an apothecary for the Legion. He was cursed to go into spasming seizures that would lead to him seeing the future, but also being out of commission for sometimes months. This flaw was explained better in the books, but to oversimplify it, his body was overly adapted to the gene seed of the Night Haunter, meaning his body was slowly tearing itself apart. But with this gene seed in another warrior, with the Navigator's blood, which Octavia was, the gift of foresight was now under control, as well as perfected in this warrior. Who was this man? Decimus, the prophet of the 8th Legion. He is the culmination of everything the Night Lords needed to become a whole legion again, written into existence as almost a second coming of the Haunter himself. He was poised to lead the Night Lords into combat alongside Abaddon during the 13th Black Crusade, specifically going after some cheeky Eldar that he particularly had a disdain for, and also saw visions that it'd be the best thing to do at this time. This character had barely a chapter dedicated to him, but has been one of the most interesting focal points to the Night Lords up until this point. I can't wait to see where they go with... Oh, fuck me! They didn't bring him up in over 10 years since? Why can't I have nice things? I get it. You let them have a trilogy, but you can't paint them as a significant threat and then do nothing with them. Fucking fine. Regardless, Decimus as a character is interesting, as he represents how far the Night Lords could climb if they didn't want to murder each other all the time. There isn't much lore to him, but I think he is a character worth knowing about. That being said, just read the Night Lords trilogy, it's so good. I will not stop saying that sorry not sorry, but that's just me. So what did you think? Which of these characters were your favorites? And what are some underappreciated characters that you like? Let me know. I genuinely want to know, as per the usual. Thanks to Chrono and the Remembrancer for helping me out with this video. Their videos are probably better than anything I've ever done, so go and check them out if you like this kind of content. Their channels will be in the description. Alongside that, I want to thank my channel members for supporting me, as with your help I am able to afford my salt, pork, and hardtack rations for this month. And if you want to support me, become a channel member. You'll get access to all my videos the second they are uploaded, rather than waiting for the scheduled release. Until next time, I just want to say, really, GW, 11 fucking years and you can't say anything about Decimus? It was kind of important.